Hey, I'm Stephanie Hunt. Welcome to the Cult of Flair, where I chat with creators from all walks of life about the meaning of personal style, fearless individuality, unexpected paths, and insights into finding your flair. Alongside my in-depth interview series, you'll also find snackable short episodes. I do love my snacks. I call these my Flair on the fly. I'll be serving up tips, musings, or insightful nuggets designed to expand your knowledge and to share the flair. Today, we are here with Raili Clasen, one of my all-time favorite designers, and I'm not just saying that because you're also my friend, but I do brag about you, and I kind of use it as a little flex because everyone talks about Raili Clasen, including my friends in the design world in Park City, and I love saying like, oh, she's my friend. I've known her for decades. Even if I haven't really known you that well for decades, it just feels fun to like claim you as my own and say like,
I am your own because you gave me one of my very first jobs, like when I didn't know, tit against tat.
Well, I think it's because I knew that there was no way in hell I could do the job because I was moving all over the place and chasing a snowboarder around the world. And these people are amazing.
Yeah, they were great.
And they're also clients of my husband's. And then I just knew that if it didn't go well, it was going to really not go well. And I was like, I think this is the part where I just peace out and give it to somebody really cool who's going to do a better job. And her name is Raili. And then that all went well.
Yeah,
but I mean, this isn't even on the list of questions, but I do think back to my early days of design, and there's a beauty in not knowing what you don't know, where I was like, sure, I can help you. And now I look back and I think of some of the stories and go like, oh my God, maybe you would never do anything if you knew either how difficult it would be or that you really might not know what you're doing and you just kind of wing it anyway, right?
Yeah. Oh, I mean,
talk to me about that, Raili.
No, I feel like the winging part makes for the most, I don't want to say successful designers because how do you measure that?
Right.
But the
creative.
And something has to be different because there's, in Orange County, I heard there's 2,800 designers.
Oh my gosh, stop it. I knew there were a lot.
There's a lot.
Right.
So what makes you different? What makes you stand out and not like I always call it, like north of normal, south of weird.
Right.
So what makes you stand out enough to like, what is it when you look around the room like, that's so cool. I'm not sure why, but that's the magic sauce.
Yeah. You know what that is? That's the flair factor.
That is the flair factor. You 100%
have the flair factor. It's why you're on this podcast.
You get all that.
Right. And Jonathan has the flair factor too. I feel bad I didn't even introduce Jonathan Brewer-Sweet of Brewer-Sweet Co., who's my co-host today and also my business partner.
Thanks for having me.
I love it. We're so glad you're here.
I'm so happy to be here.
And Jonathan and I have a good time. We could be in a room, just the two of us, and talk about silly stuff all day long. So it's just going to make this even more fun for all of us.
Yes, it will.
We might be going to the goose.
Exactly. Exactly.
I hope so.
Okay, so in no particular order, when I first met you, and I will tell you something that I don't know that I've told you before, I would see you from a distance. I was living on Lido Island.
Oh.
You moved on to Lido. I didn't know you, but I knew of you as this like fierce looking angular woman with really short, spiky blonde hair, kind of like Jonathan's.
Yeah,
and I knew that you worked for Quicksilver?
Yeah, well, or
Roxy.
Paul,
you were working for somebody super cool and stylish.
Oh, I think it was Paul Frank.
I think I was like a baby designer then. Like I had just started working in design, and I just was very aware of who you were because you did this really cool house. Then I would see you with your really gorgeous kid. And then I would like sometimes see you at Starbucks. And I never said like, oh, hi, I'm Stephanie Hunt, because I was like too intimidated. And then somehow through everybody else, all the other neighbors and friends, and just were connected by so many other people.
We are so connected.
I know.
So
Which I
nice.
love. I know, exactly.
Well, my son, I remember, came home, was like, there's this gal, I couldn't remember your name, and I think he came over and skateboarded with your son.
Yes.
This is my son, Wyatt.
Yeah, because we had a skate deck on our third
and he was just like,
right.
And our level went down, and yours, she's like, why can't we do the same thing? Why is that mom so cool and you're not?
No, the mom just lost every battle. Actually, with the skate deck that was on the third, well, it was basically the third story. It was in Bay Shores at the time. Well, Bay Shores. I said as a joke, because we kept putting potted plants up there and like lawn furniture, and then we never went up there, so we called it the dead plant graveyard. And so we were trying to figure out what to do, and the kids were skating in the alley, and my husband and other husbands, and I was like, we should put a skate ramp up there, and like everybody's like eyes lit up, and I thought like, wow, look at me, so cool, recommending something, not really thinking it would happen. And then it was happening, and I was like, I don't know that this is a good idea, because all the neighbors started to freak out, because and my husband, who is I won't say he's a good rule breaker. He's a very confident, like, oh, I'm doing it, and we're going to figure out a way to do it.
Yeah.
He's like, this is not a permanent structure to the HOA.
HOA.
This is lawn furniture. This is not permanent. This can be taken down at any time. So he somehow got around that. And even all the neighbors who were best friends, they still were looking at me a bit skeptically because we were like the Clampetts in this fancy neighborhood. Because then instead of building like any kind of permanent, because we couldn't per the HOA, any kind of netting so small children or skateboards wouldn't fly off the roof. My husband was going to Home Depot and getting like random nets, putting them up with like plastic pipes. It looked so, like the house was lovely, and then you looked on the roof and you could see just like craziness up there. So thankfully no children flew off the roof ever, but some skateboards did, and thank God didn't break any neighbors' windows.
Wow.
And the neighbors were very lovely about it. But enough about me, let's talk about you. So when I met you, you were in the fashion design world.
Yes.
Which also was just like so cool to me and still is.
Sales, I might add, not creative.
Okay, well, I think of you as the creative person, so you could just basically lie to me unless one of our listeners out there knew and would call and say, she's lying, she wasn't the designer.
I wasn't a designer.
Okay, well, you looked like a designer.
Well.
So you had that career, and you had lots of other things before that.
Well,
I think everybody's pasts play into what they're doing today.
Well, I don't know
No
how
accidents.
flight attendant for United Airlines plays in, but
Yes, it does. Yes,
that
it
was
does.
fun.
Customer service.
Absolutely.
Solving problems.
And anyway, no, you're right. The surf industry was amazing. It was. I think after I was a flight attendant, I got a job at marketing at Raisins. It's just kind of who you know. And Moss got me that job, Massimo.
Okay.
He knew Randy Hill. The next thing I knew, I was a marketing assistant. And then when I started having kids and all that, I saw all these my friends that were reps, and I was like, they're making
making more money,
and they have free time, and they can raise their all that. So I kind of Quicksilver was going to start this new line called Roxy. I didn't care if it went crazy or nothing. I was just like, I raised my hand, and they hired me.
Would this have been 90s?
Let's see, when would this have been?
80s?
No, okay, so 90s.
Okay, 90s.
And so went there. Okay, so and then we built Roxy. It went bananas. But
Bananas.
I always was hung out and was attracted to and went to all the parties with the marketing people, the visual people, and the designers.
Okay.
Not that I didn't love my little sales crew, it was like magnetic.
Right.
So followed them around like a shadow. And then started it's sort of just showing up to installs for the stores. Like we did Quicksilver stores all over.
Right.
And I got great excitement out of that.
And visual merchandising, like all of that, like that's
Gosh.
design.
It was so, And so I would just say, Steve, you need an extra, need some extra hands. You're opening a board writers club, and I would go and we'd stay. It was great because I loved it. It was natural. I wasn't getting paid extra for it or anything.
Right.
I was just, But
you were getting a PhD in all of this stuff.
Yeah, totally. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of how I started feeling like, I never once thought, oh, I'm this creative person, but it was like when you're attracted to a person, I was attracted to the vibe.
Yeah, the energy of it. You might not be able to like articulate why, but you're drawn to it.
But I will tell you that the surf industry back in the 90s was more creative than any interior design I've ever met. It was because they weren't schooled in it, and they didn't care about how it looked, but they twisted everything on its side, and so inventive.
That's interesting. It's inventive. They could push boundaries.
They could push boundaries.
They weren't worried about like, oh, this isn't in style.
No,
like they were just trusting their creative instincts.
They didn't even care. Yeah, they're just like, let's go. This is fun. And it traveled into the fashion part of that too. The designers got 10% of their line could just be do it. Just go for it.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
Be as creative and wild as you want. Sometimes I'd be like, that is the ugliest thing I've ever seen. But I loved that they encouraged creativity at Quicksilver so much.
Right.
And Paul Frank.
They nurtured it.
Yeah.
And so all of that, I think, even as a business owner, would help. I know we're talking about design, but we're also talking about business ownership. I think that would also inform and teach you like what works with retaining employees, with motivating employees, with all of that, right?
Yeah, that could be our own podcast.
Oh my God, that's
how to keep.
You'll be back for like part 4.
Part 4.
How we retain employees.
Well, and retain, and also so it's not
them
like
interested.
I went to work with the flu, a hangover, whatever, and it just seems that
it's harder
things
to
have
find.
Things have shifted very differently since my day.
Yep.
So I have to just be used to it and get used to it and accept it.
Did you grow up in a home that was filled with kooky furniture art by parents who said, like, even if you didn't think you were creative, you still were surrounded by it somehow?
Sort of. My mom was a single mom, like secretary, raising my brother and I. She actually ended up getting remarried, but she'd go to garage sales, and whatever she bought at the garage sale went up on the wall. So it was tools and fans and
see, this explains so much.
So inventive.
Like, I have an obsession with using things as art that actually aren't art pieces. But not for that reason. I don't even know why I have that, but yours makes sense. Like, you were living with that surrounding you.
I was like, and then she'd find wallpaper. She'd get a scrap of wallpaper that had real leaves in it. So she would never call herself a creative, but I was watching Grandma Kathy. She was pretty good.
Maybe she wants a job.
Oh my gosh. Well, she's still doing the garage selling thing, but
no.
I'm not gonna let her listen to this, but no, it's terrible.
Nick can edit that part out.
Now, Raili, would you get involved in the garage sales? Would you go with her? Was that ever exciting for you? It was just experiencing what was on the walls.
Because I was young, I was just like social woman. Like I just wanted to hang out with my friends, and so I just watched her from afar.
And where was this? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Cyprus.
Okay.
So I went to Los Alamitos High School.
Okay.
But watching her do that. It all makes sense to me now. I never did that. I'm like, why are you putting such random things up there? But at least she was trying. She'd play around with it and then redo it.
And what I'm hearing is that she was actually addressing the wall space, which I'm obsessed with.
Probably because we didn't have money for real art.
And so many designers are so focused on the solid beige sofa or the rugs from a line, and then don't think 1 second about what's going on the walls. And I'm like, oh, give me all the wall space all day long. I swear I would let another designer do all the furniture and just let me do the walls.
So we might need another podcast about that, because that's what I need. I need someone because I'm not an art explorer. You know what I mean? I like to have my 5 favorites, and so that part's a little tough for me. I love it when I've got a client with a good art,
right?
But most of them don't.
But now I'm all over the place, but I'm back to business ownership. Once you scale and you have so many clients and you have so many employees, it's hard to find the time to really focus on all these things that you have to be a student in. And like, I have to remind myself, if I'm supposed to be helping with the art on these different projects, I need to carve out like X number of hours a week. So I'm actually doing that, because I get so bogged down in the business administration things, the employee things, the business things, just all the things that have nothing, all the things that have nothing to do with actually finding beautiful, kooky, interesting things at all.
Well, but you're the Flairhunter, and I see you travel like a maniac, and that is so good for designers. Which I don't have. A lot of us can't do that, or try to do that, but you get an accelerated view of that, I think, because I just got back from Italy, and I have probably 8,000 photos of just inspirational things, but that's a once-a-year trip.
And I do think that travel, at least for me, is what completely motivates me when I'm just in like a rut of like, and just seeing things in a new way.
Yeah.
But you're right. And if anything, it's like chicken and the egg. I could say, maybe I'm good at it because I travel, but I also now use it as an excuse to travel. I'm like, this is business.
Yeah.
This is work.
Write-off.
I have to travel. This is a write-off.
Exactly. So I'm curious, if you're not traveling quite as much, Raili, then where do you find some of your own creative inspiration to like refill your creative tank around here? Because I know that I draw a lot of creative inspiration from travel as well. That's kind of where I find a lot of design inspiration. But when you're here being mom, raising kids, running a big business, what are some of the things that fill you?
No, it just is happenstance. It's like I'll go visit Scott from Slightly Choppy, and I walk into his office. I mean, your head's ready to explode with the way he layers and the way he hand stitches, and so it's kind of. That sounds so mundane, like it's everywhere, but
it's not.
Because I always think I have to leave Orange County to get,
and you don't.
And you don't, but I think I said in your little the email blast you did. This sounds so weird, but I go to New York a lot. Well, not a lot, but let's say 3 times a year, and I'm obsessed with bathrooms there, like in cool restaurants and hotels.
Yes,
and because there's no rules, so they don't have to deal with it. I mean, they probably do have to deal with ADA, but I go in there, I'm like, I never thought of that. They're twisted. They're like my Quicksilver days.
Yes,
they're going like this. And
well, even you referenced fashion. I know Slightly Choppy is the flags and all of that, but there's so many, stitch details, things like that you say. Like, and I will take 10,000 photos of things that just inspire me in my own town, in a different town, traveling internationally. I don't care if it's a hotel, like it's an airplane bathroom,
Yeah.
whatever. Like now I think I'm a tortured soul. I think all designers probably are, that I can't just walk into a room. I don't care what type of room it is. It could be the most mundane doctor's office, but I'm sitting in a chair and I'm like, that's an interesting way they edge banded the something on the something.
Totally.
Then I
Totally.
take pictures.
Same.
Then I never even look back at those pictures. I'm like, why do I have 10,000 pictures? Because who's taking the time to really look at them?
Yeah.
Yeah, same. Or that's a really interesting mitered edge on that tile. I wonder how they did that. Then I walk up and feel it, and I'm taking a really close up photo that
How
when
can
I'm looking
I
back.
translate this to a bathroom or something?
Exactly. But then once again, I'm not looking back at those photos. And
Right.
when I'm cleaning up my images, I'll find
Or
them.
like
but-
you're on an airplane. You're
Yes.
Like, delete. And like at one point that meant something to you.
Oh my
Definitely.
gosh, I had all, like, I don't even remember. I mean, well north of 10,000 photos, and we had no Wi-Fi coming back on an international trip. And I literally
You just did
sat,
that.
and it was like I lost 5 pounds. I got off the plane, my husband and I were sitting separately, and I looked at him and I was like, I'm down to 975 photos. And even he was like, what?
Yeah.
And it felt so good. At first I was like, oh, I might want to look at that one day. And then I was like, screw it, there's no way I'm ever looking at that again.
Yeah.
And I just was deleting everything. It felt
It feels good,
fantastic.
right?
I
Yes.
know. But it's all somewhere, I'm telling myself anyway, that it's all still in my brain, or then I'm going to be really mad if I'm like, I know I took a picture in this cool hotel and now I deleted it, so it's gone forever.
Yep.
And I feel like if I take the time to get my camera out and take a photo, I almost think like maybe there's a connection to my brain and I'll
Yes.
remember it.
Yep.
But
It's like
probably not.
highlighting I can justify anything, or I can rationalize. It's like highlighting a book when you're studying for an exam. Like, oh, somehow that physical act of highlighting that is like
Right.
cementing it in my
Yeah,
brain.
you're totally right.
Totally. It's like, hey, brain, pay attention to
Yeah,
this.
hey brain, pay attention.
So back to Quicksilver, so many fun ventures. How did you then make the decision after styling stores, opening new
back to design.
stores? When did you decide to make the jump into design?
Well, I started with my best friend, and we. So I didn't want to age out in the surf industry, and I was like, I just looked around me like, it's time to get a plan. So I went and started a like a hip housewares company. It was really cute.
It was so cool.
So cute. It was like the cutest dustpans you've ever seen. Toilet plungers like camo and orange. It was so cute. But my girlfriend and I, we had all the design and the marketing, joie de vivre, but flair, except we did not know production. And we got not robbed. Our money stolen from us from Chinese vendors that were doing it. Like,
Oh
it
my
was-
gosh.
It was,
No.
so it wasn't, it was such a good idea. And I just remember we went to our first New York show, trade show. And I mean, I remember going, this is either going to be awesome or I'll go get us some martinis in like 1 hour and it's going to be a long 4 days. And up walks Fred Siegel and up walks Bendel.
No,
and they
you
all
guys
placed
made the
orders.
coolest stuff.
And then the press was so good, but it still was so small because we were trying to sell $100 toolboxes.
And it was the name of it. Am I allowed to say?
Yeah, Alice.
Alice.
Yeah.
Like Alice, the housekeeper
Alice
on the Brady
Supply.
Bunch.
Oh,
Alice
cute.
Supply.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing it. I think I knew of it from you, but we were already living in Park City, and I walked into this little store in Salt Lake that I don't think exists anymore. It was called Hip and Humble. And
Oh, yeah, Hip and Humble. I remember that.
seeing it and reaching out to you and saying like, oh my God, this is like, and I think I even to them, I was like, I know the person who designed and made these, but I love that you're even being honest about the manufacturing of it, because I feel like it's
tortured.
intimidating. You think like, oh, I have this idea. I wouldn't know how to even go about doing that. So it's nice to know that it's not easy,
It's not easy. Finding good partners like you guys, like finding good partners. We just, I was in the industry so long with everybody manufacturing in China. So we found somebody to help us out, like show us a couple of factories that happened to take our money and run. But it wasn't anything that put us out on the street.
Yeah.
But it was just a bummer.
Yeah.
But it was so, so to answer your question, that we sold that company. They were going to try and sell it like to a big box. So
Yeah, I
we
think I
sold,
heard maybe someone
and
was trying to compete
We just
with
weren't
you.
making any money.
Yeah. But you
And
sold it.
we sold it. Yeah.
Okay.
And Maria, she had to go back to work. I mean, she was a single mom and she needed to go back and get a paycheck. But we sold it. And then, but all those press people we were in Arc Digest. So funny, I can't get an Arc Digest to save my life now, but back then I was in it all the time.
Exactly. That's so cool.
And so those kind of people thought this was, because it was different. And
It was so different, and it was so fresh.
Got to be a little different, a
Yes.
little fresh.
Because
Yes.
to that point, my knowledge of anything to do with tools was just like something you found in Home Depot,
yeah,
and it was
Ace.
like red or green or brown or black. And you were making it in like powder coated pinks
Yeah,
and
it was
oranges
so-
and
it was really
stripes and just really cute, really clever.
Yeah, so then these magazines, once they got to know us, were like, hey, what's your house look like? And I was living on Lido, and you were nice to say that house was great, but I didn't know anything. That was just a house. Like no award winners there. But we happened to be moving. We bought a house right here by Newport Harbor High School in Cliff Haven with this killer yard and this killer long driveway, and then they all said, "What's your house like?" I'm like, "I'll tell you. I don't know. I hired a designer, and she left for England
wow.
like 2 weeks later. She goes, "I'm so sorry, I can't do your job." And I'm like, "Okay, screw it, I'll do it."
Yeah.
And then these magazines they were just desperate for content, I think. So I got in that house got in a lot, and I mean I did it with the West Elm catalog and the tile shop down the street.
Yeah.
It was,
But it kind of put you on the map because
Yeah,
I think
100%,
I think also what I
100%.
loved about it and your early work, and I'm sure still today, but today you're doing all kinds of, I mean, you've always been doing amazingly cool things. But I think it was also, whatever the word is that I'm looking for, you may have said, like, I was doing it from the tile shop up the street in the West Elm catalog. Still, someone could see the work and go, wow, like, she didn't have to fly to Paris and find
No.
all of her rugs. Like, no, like, you can create a beautiful space. It doesn't need to take millions of dollars. It doesn't.
correct.
Is it helpful to have a bigger budget? Yes, but
It's great.
Some of the most stylish homes I've ever been in, or the most stylish people I know, are not people who are formally trained, who have unlimited funds. They can just put an outfit together. They can put a house together. Great style.
Yep.
And then I've since redone that house for a client that did have a budget, and you should see it now. It's like, oh, that's what it was supposed to look like.
Oh, had a budget as in like had a much higher budget.
Much higher budget. And we finished that about a year ago, and it was weird, like sitting in my kitchen.
Yes.
Because it had been sold 2 or 3 times and then he got it.
Okay.
But that was a very. I had so many memories in the house. My kids to
know,
this
I bet
day
that
are
was
still mad
surreal.
at me for selling it. That was the one that got away.
Because that was the house you really had kids still. Your kids are grown now, but
Yeah.
that was you had little kids in the house.
I had them all home back then when we had
Yeah.
that house. Yeah, and they were, they loved the yard but then we did it right with my other client.
I would think it'd be full circle or half circle.
It was.
Like, look, now I'm back and I'm going to do it.
I'd literally be standing in his kitchen, just sort of look at and I was like pulled back, like, oh, I better go get something in my, in
Yeah.
my room.
It's amazing.
So yeah, that was fun. That was a fun experience on top of
So
design.
then through that, other people started hiring you. I'm
Okay,
assuming.
so the truth of the matter was I got done with the house, turned out cute, and then these magazines kind of were like, yeah, we want to publish it and everything. So then the home tour asked me to put the house on the home tour, the Newport Harbor home tour, which is awesome.
Right.
And I owe them
And
everything.
huge exposure.
I owe them everything. Like, I was a no-name designer. I wasn't a designer. And, they like designers. They like to put designers on.
And even that's evolved a lot over time.
Yeah.
The home tour.
Yeah.
Anyway, but go back to.
But it's big, and it's a big
It's
judgy
big.
day.
Oh,
Yes.
it is.
Yes, it
Because
is.
I used to go, when I lived here, I would go on that home tour every year. And you see so many beautiful homes, any of which I could walk in. If someone invited me over to that house, I would think like, this is absolutely incredible. But there's something about walking through 5 or 7 homes, every inch of it, or the inches they let you see, that it's almost so overwhelming that you start start looking for the things you don't like. So I was like, look at this.
Yep.
Day of judgment.
So right, so
Exactly.
then when if I was approached about a home tour, and even now, like the Utah Parade of Homes, I'm like, no chance.
Oh, you won't do it?
No, I won't, because I think that if I just invited somebody to dinner, they might like the house. But if all of a sudden all the strangers are going through it for design ideas, they might just be like, well, I would never use
It
that
was
tile,
torture.
and I would never, yeah.
Well, so then I was like, you know what? This was a lot of fun. And I told my husband, I think I want to do this. And I said, listen, I have no skin in the game. I'm going to go buy some cards and put them on the table. And I didn't even go for the 500 pack, because that was an extra $40. I went for like the 200.
It was more of a commitment.
And
Now people would say, like, it's manifesting, make $1 million.
and the manifesting, it works for some people. I don't even know what that is, but I did. I put them down there, said a little prayer, and got the heck out of there for the day. I was like probably at the goose, because it was so nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
But it wasn't nerve-wracking because I was like, if no one hires me or calls me, that's totally fine.
Right.
I'm not even want to
No
be an
harm, no
interior
foul.
designer. It was kind of fun, but we'll see.
Right.
And so then that kicked things off. Then I had like 8 little tiny, teeny, tiny, I need a bedroom refresh, not even the bathroom. They didn't even trust me for the bathroom yet.
Find me some new bedding.
Like that, yeah. And I had, and it's so funny because now we laugh at that. I took that so seriously.
Of course you did.
I just loved it.
And you're so flattered and honored that somebody
That
is trusting you
Yeah, definitely.
and wants your help.
Yeah. So that was kind of how I got into interior design. Then I got better jobs. You got me some great ones. That was an early one. And then one gal from the home tour had a big, beautiful house over in Dover Shores, and she, like to this day, if she said I need a new light, I need a new drinking glass.
Yeah.
I'm there for her.
I have somebody like that trusted me so much in early days, believed in me more than I even believed in myself.
Yeah.
Back in the days when you're like, I'm saying I'm a designer, but it doesn't even roll off the tongue because it feels like such like, am I a designer? I felt like everyone was like, she's not really a designer. She's making it up. But, and honestly, because of some of the mistakes that I remember ordering, this is before anyone was doing digital layouts or before I even was capable of, and I'm still not really good at it, of doing like a scaled furniture layout, that we designed like, in this gorgeous home, Kings Road, we're gonna do these 2 custom sofas with all the chairs, blah, blah, blah. We go to install them. There's no way in hell 2 sofas would fit in that room. And her answer was like, oh, don't worry, we'll put it in the other house. And I almost cried because I was like, how am I gonna tell my husband that we now own this custom sofa that I have no place for and I have to just eat this amount of money? Yeah.
Well,
so
and
it's
we
those
should
people
talk
that
about
trust you early days.
We are all 3 designers doing the same thing, and for me, the imposter syndrome was real. Because all of a sudden, I'm like, now have a business, and I have employees, and I'm like, wait, I am nervous to go into the Pacific Design Center because I think they're going to kick me out because I don't have the AIA card or whatever it is. And
I had that the first time I went into the Pacific Design Center too. Yeah,
I've
at that
never
same
gone-
time.
Well,
Did I take you?
Edit
No, but
that.
I think it's why one of the reasons I love to mentor younger designers, or just like even when you guys were starting, take you with
Yes.
me, because I remember that fear. And then I went to work for a bigger firm, and I think they just wanted to get rid of me because, as you know, training a new employee, no matter how badly you want the new employee, you don't have time to also train them. And I went in for one of my first days, and they were like, "Oh, we're just looking for go find fabrics and wallpaper with very little instruction." And I remember having to go to the design center and being like, afraid that they would figure out I wasn't actually a designer, and then afraid to bring back the things that I found to show the other designers what I found. Like, just the whole thing. There's so much nerve
There is, and I've been
rackingness
doing
attached to it.
talks and podcasts and stuff because I started my design business at 49.
Which is so, because I'm all about like the chapter next. I'm
next
obsessed
chapter.
with chapter next.
But the thing is, you're still pretty young, lucky you.
He's a youngster.
But fear is the only thing in our way.
Yeah.
And money. I mean, obviously, you have to have money
Because there's a lot of risk, right? The financial risk.
If you could have a day job and do interior design, like have to take a job or whatever. But once you get to a certain age, I felt, at least me, like it just kind of goes down. Like, okay, if this doesn't work out, I mean, my goodness.
It's completely true. It's completely true.
I always want to get my real estate license and do that. I still do. I still might, but I love real estate so much. Like, it's like almost not a drug, but I can't wait to get on that MLS every day and see what's popped up overnight.
Oh, I love you and my husband. I don't do that. I don't do that, but my husband loves doing that.
Yeah. So anyway, so that imposter syndrome lasted about 3 or 4 years, but I was getting good jobs at that point, really good. And
then you just learn to trust, like, you know what, if other people think I'm a designer enough to hire me as a designer, I must be a designer.
Then the big one was Eric Olson's he and I kind of started off together. He also had it. He was like, he worked for a company.
I didn't know that.
And
I thought he'd been around doing this forever.
Yeah, so did I.
And you guys do a lot of work together.
we do, we're on. He says like 18 projects. I'm only counting like 6, but that's a lot. Those are long projects, and we have very different styles. But when we come together, we really, I love the end product.
And he's
he doesn't
an
let me put
architect.
much color
I'm like,
in there.
sorry, Eric Olson.
Yeah,
he's an architect or a builder. He's an architect. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
And
so
doing beautiful work. And I do love when I see the photos of projects you've done together, because you're right, his aren't necessarily colorful, but I feel like his projects with your involvement have
get a little,
and more flair.
Yeah, and like you should see him, you guys. It's like I'll show up and I'll be like, I want to do the shower doors green in this house that we just did. Dark green. That's not really a color, right?
Right.
It's like black.
Green is a neutral in my world. Green
and
matches
blue
with
are
everything.
neutrals, yes.
He's doing this, and I'm like, come on, you've got to
Trust me.
a bone. Because otherwise it's black. I mean, but he has beautiful projects.
Beautiful
And
projects.
If I want to work with him, then I lean into his style a little bit more.
Absolutely.
And I have no problem with that.
No, absolutely.
You know?
I know. I think a lot of people misinterpret, or I've done a bad job of educating people about the brand, that Flair is color and pattern only. And they'll send me these pictures like, look, it's Flair. And I'm like, okay, I think that's really ugly, actually. Yeah. But like, I don't think Flair has to have any color attached to it. It's just doing something that's uniquely individual in a way.
Yes.
Yeah, that's such a great.
Yes.
And when somebody asks me what's Flair, I'm going to say, it's this.
It's just, you're
It's
taking
this.
it from this to this. I think that's what
Start
it
a
is.
Flair
Yeah.
dance. We need to, before we're done today, just do all this together.
Just rotate
in
it
a
45 degrees.
in a little video.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so talk to me about, like, maybe without attaching names to it, like some horrific mistake. Not that there's any mistakes, because it all makes us smarter for the next one.
Oh, well, my first 3 years when I had imposter syndrome, I made a lot of them. I wrote a lot of checks I didn't want to. And I called it, like, I didn't go to design school. I'm like, oh, well, I would have had to pay for design
Right.
school or this.
We say that all
We
the
talk
time.
about this.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
If I now-
Because Jonathan's newer in his career. He's an old soul and so talented, but
Did you go to design school?
I did not.
No, and he has all
Nice.
this business experience and this incredible eye. He and his business partner and husband Garrett are so incredible, but didn't go to design school. And anything that happens, it's sort of like, this is sort of just the cost of design school. You know, like
100%.
That's what I
Right.
say too, yeah. Because I came from a marketing background and I just wasn't happy
had
and
the eye,
wanted to
yeah.
start something and kind of similar. We designed our house and started getting compliments on it. So it kind of grew from there. And it's true. Every time I write one of those checks that I don't want to write, I just say, this is cheaper than design
Cheaper
school.
than
This is
design.
cheaper than
faster.
design and
And
faster.
faster. And
Yes.
faster.
And I have a lot more trust with clients
Yeah.
now than I would if I would have taken several years to go to design school.
Listen, I have to probably write, not everyone, but like the tile, I know, I made a tile batch. We ran out of tile, ordered more of it. It's hand done, a totally different size. They installed it, and they installed it without like anyone calling me, whatever, but that lands on me.
Yeah, it does.
And so I've had several of those. They're not fun, but like you said, I should never make that mistake again. So I've made enough mistakes now, I'm pretty good.
And and in terms also, don't you think with client retention, or even if that client is never a client again, it's how you handle and resolve the problem and their feeling about that. Because I know other designers who are like, well, you signed on this and this is the policy.
I don't
And
do
like,
that.
I don't think I don't either. I
do
don't
I.
think there's happy people out there saying nice things about those designers, because I hear the stories.
Yeah.
Where I think if you just suck it up and say, listen, we made a mistake and I'm going to make it right. And here's how, and we're going to solve it. And it's not going to cost you one extra penny.
No.
And I understand that it's disruptive and all those things, but oh well, it still
It is.
happens.
It is what it is.
But
I
right
know.
now, like you said about retention, I'm now in the business long enough where I'm on my, sixth, seventh. I probably have 8 clients right now that are second, third, fourth.
I love that.
One I'm like
really
on,
cool.
on the 8th one.
I mean,
but
that's
just love it. You know
amazing.
why? You just kind of go in and go. You know it. They know it. It's
Yeah,
that there's zero stress going into this.
There's zero stress because you understand their push points.
Push
or
point, yeah,
like you understand the budget, you
Triggers.
understand triggers, you understand what they value, you understand the personality, you understand the marriage dynamic, because
Yeah.
oftentimes you're also a therapist
100%.
and trying to navigate who is the decision maker. Someone is saying yes to everything, but then they go home and the other person is the real decision maker who is then undoing those decisions. So when you have a repeat client, it's the best.
It's awesome. And you know what? Like, I'm here to have fun too. Like,
Yes, that is such a great
I
point.
want to work with fun people, like funny, and that humor and that whole thing plays such a part. So many designers, not you, and for sure neither of you guys, but they're just taking themselves too serious.
Way too
Yes.
seriously. And I say we're not, yes, it's very serious what we do, and it's a lot of money, and I don't
Yeah.
take that lightly, but we are not curing cancer over here.
And
No, we're not.
we can have fun with our clients and just be like, you know what, once you get that relationship established, but I wouldn't do this. It's so much work if I didn't have fun, because that's really.
Don't you
that's,
think it's
you know.
way more work than you ever imagined?
Well, like I said, I now have lead designers, 3 of them, and I am running a business. And I got my husband out of Vans.
Yes, I wanted to talk to you about
Oh
that.
my God,
Yes.
but I don't know. Like today,
I'm
thought that
so
was a good
envious.
thing.
I say to my husband, I'm like, won't you just quit your job and come work with me? And he's like, you need to make a lot more money.
Yeah, yeah. And the same. I mean, Brian took like a big haircut coming
But
over
that's
to me.
just amazing, though, that you guys can work together.
Well, so here's, and I'm going to be truthful. I don't know if anyone's going to, like, this isn't a great story, but I begged him because I'm all about growth. In sales, you care about growth.
Right.
And then I got to that growth and I was like, I'm running everybody into the ground. And
And
also
it's not fun.
It wasn't fun. And then I was spending all my time like going to HR seminars to learn how to talk to my, it's like all that. So I begged him. And Vans was also kind of winding down.
And he'd been with Vans a number of years. Because also, like,
in total, like a 16.
Yeah,
And
okay.
he had a great job. We had great insurance. We had great salary.
gosh.
So he came because I just needed him. And
you're so lucky.
well, it's someone I can trust, and the girls love him. It's nice to have a
Absolutely.
guy around too. But the point is that took some of it off me. But you're still. So my job right now is getting jobs.
Right.
and
Business development.
reviewing jobs, and then I work with the girls, but I'm not sitting down grinding on every meeting the cabinet guy to go over red lines.
Right.
Like, actually I do that, but whatever it is to go.
But you don't have to be in the weeds of every
They're in the
single
weeds.
piece
Every-
of it.
every-
They're
yeah.
in the weeds. And you do then have the ability to live elsewhere, to travel, to not be in the offices.
You know what? I feel like because we lived in Rancho, and so I came to work about 3 days a week. I got it. We do our best work when we're all circled up.
So last winter, I had this little bratty mutiny where I was like, I cannot live in the snow full time. I'm going to go crazy. So we rented a house back in Santa Barbara. And I thought while it was going on, like, this is amazing. I'm working from my bed office and then we can just zoom in and I can go back every 3 weeks or so and it's all running smoothly. And in hindsight and in short order, once I got back, I think people were maybe protecting me a bit from the reality of some of the things. I realized like, I can't really just peace out.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a small business. Like I think it's all, it's more than I ever
Google.
thought it would be.
Yeah.
But it's still a business. I still have to turn a profit.
And as business owner, people are hiring you for you. So it's amazing. I'm so grateful for my staff and the ones who've been with me a long time and the ones who hopefully will be. But at the end of the day, I mean, they're better than me in lots of ways that I could never be good in. But there's something about you as the owner that the client is hiring you.
Yep.
And they
And
want
they
to
tell
know
me that at the beginning. Now
Yes.
you're going to be in,
Yeah,
and
same.
I've seen big, huge design firms, and I've paid attention to how and now they're not even really showing up because they've run the motors like they've. I still, and I am not a control freak. None of my girls would say you overmanage or whatever, micromanage, but. Remember this thing we're talking about? Like that comes from me.
Yep.
They're pretty
The flair
good.
factor.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're the flair factor.
And so maybe it's just a few details in the house, but I look at every piece we put in, every finish, whatever, and do that with them. But then I don't get into the.
Yeah.
But I want to. I mean, I miss
I know
it.
it's frustrating. And then if you do go to meetings, you probably love being at the meetings.
Love being at
But
the
then
meetings.
I know you can't spend all your days of the week running around from job
No.
site to job site to job site to job site. It's like
No, and our job sites, I only have probably a third of our jobs are here in Orange County. So running
you're
around a
working
job
elsewhere.
site means getting on a plane,
Yeah, definitely.
Exactly.
which I don't mind. I don't mind at all. I think it's kinda
Let's. Do you have any other questions? Because otherwise we're going to play a little game of this or that. But I want you to
Yes,
ask more questions.
I have a couple more questions. At what point in your career, as someone who's starting a growing business, did you make the jump to then hiring staff?
Yes, great question.
So pretty early. Let's see. I think I started in 2000 around, I don't know, okay, 12. I'd say within, I'll tell you exactly. Do you know Vanessa Schimmelfinnig? Hi, Vanessa. She's
I don't,
this
but I
gal.
want to. Hi, Vanessa.
So,
Hi, Vanessa.
she was a designer, and then she became a mom. And she sent me an email out of nowhere. She goes, I saw your house in the house tour. I actually kind of was a designer, and I want to work for you for free. I didn't take her up on the free. I paid her for 3 months. This is we had a great, so that was right away.
Yeah.
Like literally, she got it from the home tour. So
I'm like, lean in, like we're
she worked
listening
for
to
me,
this.
and did she not work for me? Talk about, I was like, we have to be partners. Like, you are a designer, and I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we happily, but then her kids got really busy, and she's a mom. She really wanted to be a mom. She
Right.
kept going back and forth. Then after that, I got an assistant designer. Then I needed someone for procurement, and then I got more. And then I finally had my assistant turned into
Layers.
a lead.
Okay.
Yep.
And then at one point we had, close to 10, and
Wow.
that was too big
It's
for me.
That's where we are right now, not at 10, but figuring out it's sort of fluid, where I'll ramp up and have more people, and then more people just sometimes can turn into more problems, and it's not necessarily even as efficient, and then it's just more overhead,
Yeah.
even if it's billable hours, but it's that sweet spot of how much is the right amount of help. That's tricky for design businesses, and we're going through that right
It's
now
really
with just
hard.
hiring at what level. Like, are we ready for like a junior designer as opposed to just a design assistant on some
Yeah.
of these projects here? So I just appreciate you having the conversation about this.
Right.
Well, it is hard because, my girls, like 1 month they'll be like, do, like, and then all of a sudden it'll flood in and project will start, because you know how it goes. You'll get a job and I may not see that client because it's in plan check for 6 months.
Right.
And so, so it's just so hard. And then when one leaves, that's really like, I've had a couple of them leave and go do other things. And it's like, then I've got to put somebody else in, and the flow changes a lot.
Yeah.
It's true, and with construction, because
Yeah,
we have
construction.
a project in Park City right now that started literally before COVID, then stalled because of the clients, then stalled because of COVID, then a builder that kind of pieced out and left town, and now it's hot and heavy, and it's hard to be staffed up enough because we wouldn't have taken that project today.
Yeah.
But I'm not
Yeah.
going to leave them high and dry.
Yes.
But we're in the middle of so many other projects, sort of at that same stage. It's the forever.
Well, and I'm
Juggle.
gonna give a shout out to Leanne Ford. She worked at
We're
Quicksilver.
obsessed. She
And-
did.
Yeah.
We
so-
love her.
So we
Obsessed.
have a lot of similar friends, and she, she was in the marketing department or the visual merchandising. I think something in creative. She was definitely in creative, and I've gone back chatting with her a little bit, and now so I got her book, The Big Slowdown. I'm like,
Yeah.
I want to do that. I love what I do, but I think I'm trying like that 10 people, I look back, I worked 7 days a week.
Yep.
When we had that many projects, then I threw a hotel on everybody.
Oh, wow.
And the hotel needs 5 to 8 people
Right.
every day on it. And
I
I was
remember
using
that
my
hotel.
staff,
It was,
the
like,
Richland,
really cool.
It was really cool, but
On
talk
top
about
of the other
top
projects.
of all my projects.
Right.
So that was probably a big mistake. Not a big mistake to take it because I loved it, but I didn't staff up enough for that.
Right.
And how do you? Because the Richland
do you?
goes away, and I don't have another hotel.
No, what are you going to do? Like
Right.
furlough 5 people?
I don't wanna do that.
No.
So how do you do the big slowdown? Like if
I don't know.
your version of it? I know I don't
I'm
either.
thinking about it right now.
Yeah.
So that's the thing is, let's say I want to slow down. I'm not slowing down for at least 2 years because I'm committed.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
To jobs that are starting
Right.
now.
Yep.
But slowing down, like the more and more my designers are with me. I mean, I've got some, 5 years, 6 years. Carrie's been with me, our procurement, since she was one of the first ones I hired.
I mean, that's
as that
amazing.
gets better, I told them, I want to, you guys have they're all young. They don't need to slow down
Yeah.
yet.
This is exactly where I am
But
right now.
I just want to, we have a place in Mexico, and I go down there and I'm like, I'm a different person down there.
Yeah.
And so I like both, but
And you know what? That even brings it back to travel and inspiration, and me saying like, "Oh, I travel for inspiration." I think I also travel to escape
Yeah,
because
same.
it just feels different.
Yeah.
Living in Santa Barbara for 3 months, and it's just a different feeling.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I think that's called avoidance, and it probably
Yeah.
just needs therapy or medication, and not more
And
projects.
Baja is, I'm
It's-
surrounded by.
Where
old
in
s-
Baja are you?
In the East Cape.
Okay.
In Destiladeros. And it's a surf community.
That's so cool.
It's, Jerry Lopez is our neighbor. And
Oh my God, that's
And
awesome.
they're just really soulful people.
Yeah.
That don't get caught in what, I'm not saying you guys get caught, but I get on this rap. We're here in
Right.
Newport. It's easy to jump on.
Yep.
And so they just sort of like, because here it's so acceptable, and you're like, oh, good for you guys. And they're
Right.
like, why are you going so fast?
And here is even a higher, faster cadence speed than Park City, Utah. Park City, I get into the like raw of all that, and maybe anywhere you have a business with employees and multiple clients, you would. But I do think there's something about Southern California, Orange County energy, and not that it's a bad thing. It's just something that maybe at a certain stage of life, I won't even attach an age to it, but maybe it's like a younger person's game, Jonathan.
But going back to the age thing, because I'm kind of like leaning into that on with some other podcasters and stuff, is at this age we have experience and knowledge and energy. By the way, a little bit more,
a lot of energy and bandwidth,
and we've been through disasters and tragedy and great things and awesome things, and
it's hard to give it up.
But it's pretty neat. It's like it adjusted my thinking. Like I could probably do the best design job now. Take the fear down from when I was young.
100%.
All the knowledge elevates it. It's kind of a neat.
It's actually a great phase of life, and even the great slowdown or whatever we're calling it. I don't know that I personally feel like I want to slow down. I just want to do different things.
Same.
And
That's
I don't
what mean.
have
what do you call it? Diverse. We want to diversify.
Right, diversify.
Just like your financial portfolio.
Right.
Mine is so one-sided. It's work. And my friends give me a hard time.
People are like, "What's your hobby?"
Your
I'm like,
giving you a hard time too.
What's my hobby? My hobby's work.
Yeah.
And it is, but that's neat. But that's not what I envision for myself at this stage of my life, because I miss tennis. There's a good one. I miss tennis.
Skiing. All my friends play pickleball. I don't play pickleball. I don't ski. And you're about to be a grandmother.
And I'm going to be a grandma. So that's
you have a new daughter-in-law, and you're going to be a grandmother.
Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. Like
the youngest, coolest grandmother ever.
Oh my gosh,
amazing!
I'm so excited. That's another stage. So I'm excited. I was like, a lot of people dread it. Especially women who spend their lives raising their kids, and maybe they have a really good. They had great jobs earlier. They're all just like, what's next? Their big thing is what's next. So I want to do more, like on top of my design, I want to motivate people and help them. Some people just need a kick in the ass.
Yeah.
And I'm good at that.
Yeah.
Come on. What are you afraid of? Well, it might not work. Well, then you try,
Now, Raili Clasen, chapter next, life coach.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, no, definitely not that. But this is a neat time in life, and if people have especially creatives, I met so many people like that have written books, and I sent it to a publisher. I'm like, oh no, haven't you heard all the stories? You sent it to 100.
Yes,
Yep.
you can't do it at one and then say like, I'm just going to tiptoe away.
Harry Potter. How many did she send it to? 100 before
So
she got
many.
picked up.
I feel like I'm so inspired by stories of really, really successful businesses who then talk about like, oh, I had 5 failed, which I don't think there are any failures. 5 failed this before.
Yeah.
Like you attempts or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about some silly questions.
Okay.
Favorite movie treat? Are you a popcorn girl or are you a Milk Duds?
No, you put Milk Duds in the popcorn.
Yeah.
If you don't know this,
oh no!
then I don't even know who you
think
are.
I invented it, and I think thought that I was so unique, and then turns out everybody else had been doing it. And then I watched a movie recently that they called it movie salad or something like that.
Movie salad.
Yeah, I'd never heard that where you just like put it all together.
I never heard that either.
Now you go to the movies and I can have sushi and a good glass of wine. So.
Right.
Not in Park City. We don't have those yet.
You don't.
What about like favorite town anywhere in the U.S.?
So
And
good.
not that you've been to all the towns, but just like a funky.
Baja, where down there is
Yeah.
a favorite. New York City, I just love it. I'm so drawn.
Yeah.
I asked my husband, could we just like rent a place? And he's like, I'll visit you maybe.
That's what my husband says. And I'm like, I just want to have an apartment in Paris. My needs are simple. He's like, well, the dogs and I are going to be in Park
Yeah,
City.
yeah,
So
that's-
I
I
know
get
you're going to
that
miss the
same.
dogs. So
I'm the girl, and I bet there's some similarities. Any town I go to for whatever. Like I'm doing a project in Oakley, Utah.
I'm thinking, where in California is Oakley?
Oakley, Utah.
Oakley is
They're
awesome.
huge
like,
ranch.
let me tell you, a lot of people that we know in Park City or people coming to Utah are actually trickling out of Park City and getting really cool pieces of property, ranches
property.
Yes.
in Peoa, Oakley, Midway,
I don't
Heber,
know any
Camas,
Heber, I heard, is good, really good.
all those. But Oakley's really cool. I
But
love
like
that you're doing
anywhere I go for work or play or anything, I'm the one in the real estate offices looking at the things like how much is it,
Yeah.
and envisioning a life here.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I'm still real happy with with here in California, Southern California.
This is home and families here and all that.
And I just really love so much about it. I love 17th Street.
I love 17th Street. Anytime I come back here, I'm like, I need a whole extra day so I can just go shopping and have all my favorite snacks.
Rotated. I can eat. I can.
I'm
get my
so
hair
full
blown
because
out.
I just keep going to all my favorite restaurants. Yesterday, I left a meeting with Jonathan. I'm like, I'm going to Stacy Bomb for a giant sandwich. And then I'm like, well, I can't not go to dinner, but I'm so full from my sandwich and I just have to eat all the food.
So the towns are, so I love basically everywhere I go.
Yeah. And everywhere we go, I drug my husband, didn't have to twist his arm too much, up to a project in Napa over the weekend.
Yeah, Napa.
And then we started looking at real estate up there. By we, I mean
So
he.
same.
And I'm just like, great.
I have 2 projects up there right now. And you better believe.
Oh, I might be calling you for resources. I need
Well,
a
no,
window treatment.
I
need a
need
window
to be
treatment
calling you
person.
for resources. I'm just barely starting on. But,
Okay, we'll call each other.
Yeah, but I'll get them.
What was your first job ever? Your first paycheck you ever earned?
Oh, this is a good one. I rode
Whether
my
you were
bike
14 or
I was
15
probably
or-
about 13 or 14. I worked the second I
Same.
could. I wanted money.
Same. I
so
wanted.
no one was
I wanted
giving
my.
it to me.
I wanted my own money that I could make decisions about which jeans I was going to buy
Yeah, same.
when I was
Yep.
15,
We're
and
the
I
exact-
didn't
yeah,
have
we're
to
the
like
same DNA.
have parents say
And
that's
I
too
didn't want to get
expensive.
the knockoffs because that's what my mom wanted me to buy.
Right.
The knockoff.
Totally. Yep. Or
whatever.
the sale rack at TJ Maxx.
No, yeah.
Wait, so you would ride your bike? Where'd you go?
I rode my bike it was almost 5 miles from Los Alamitos to Cerritos to clean an orthodontic office every Saturday. Can you imagine?
That's
That
awesome.
was so gross.
Wow.
All that plaster and all the
Ooh,
stuff in the
yeah.
sinks and
You want to talk about gross? I worked as a maid in a hotel in Norway.
no, you didn't.
Yeah, I did. My parents, I need to find a photo. And I thought it was all cute and glamorous because it was not like a fancy Four Seasons. It was like a bed and breakfast back in the day that we used to stay in. And they would give you little tips, like little coins. And then I would be oddly obsessed. I'd be like staring at people's toothbrushes. Like,
Oh my God.
I was like, the freakiest. And my
is-
mom came to visit and stay. And my dad's taking a picture of me with like pushing a vacuum in a uniform. This is after I graduated from USC.
Hey, that's something.
Because I was like,
How about that, Trojans?
I couldn't afford to stay in Norway and I didn't want to come home. And everyone kept saying, be an au pair. And I was like, no, I'm not going to be an au pair. I'm not taking care of children. Then I ended up being an au pair and loved it. And that was an amazing life story in all the different ways. But before that, I was a maid in a hotel with
that's
probably
good.
the
My
highest
next
level
one
of
after that
education.
was, oh my God, I got so fat at this job.
I was fat in
Marie
Norway.
Callender's waitress, and they had a Velcro, the skirt Velcro. And when I started that job, and then I'm like,
They're pot pies.
and they would all the pies that weren't finished would just be, so it was open. And back then I didn't know about calories and all that. I was just
whatever.
just like, oh, this tastes so good. This
Yep.
tastes so good.
Yep.
Man,
Just following your taste buds.
Pudge City, Idaho. When I was done with that job,
Pudge City. I have never heard that expression. That is so funny.
Mom, the dryer
I'm from
does
Pudge
not
City,
work.
I know.
It's shrinking all my clothes.
That's
Okay, what
amazing.
what are you reading or listening to right now? Anything?
Ooh, yeah. So I listen to I listen to funny stuff because I
Okay.
love to laugh. So what is it with Jason Bateman and oh my God, they're like the number 2.
Podcast.
Smartless.
Yeah, Smartless.
Smartless. I love to. I just like to laugh. And then
kinda forgot about that
I
one.
listen to Business
did I.
at Home and
Yeah.
I
love that.
because that's pretty good. And like I like design ones, especially when they talk about business, because
I know
no
the
one-
business of
no
design
one
ones I
throws
love.
down with how much they charge and how like everyone keeps that secret. I'm really good friends with like Brooke Wagner. And she's and it's so nice to have a friend in town and we go to lunch that's honest.
Absolutely.
And,
And
we are
we'll
honest with each
share
other.
information back and forth.
You know?
I love that podcast for that reason.
Yeah.
And even the Instagram account that it's like interior design community something. I love they'll ask questions like, how do you handle a blah, blah? And then all the designers will answer, how do
Yeah.
you charge for this? Do you charge a fee on top of this for project management? I'm so grateful for those types of things.
Same. That people when
Same.
they give you an honest answer.
Yeah,
like,
when they're honest,
well,
right?
you know,
We
but-
never have that problem.
but,
what
yeah.
about streaming? Are you a TV person?
Oh yeah.
What do you watch at night? That's like my love
Did
language
you guys
right now.
watch Bad Monkey?
Oh my gosh,
No.
obsessed. We watched all of them, and it actually, the author, Carl Hyacin.
Yeah, Hyacin.
It's got me listening now to his audiobooks because I think he's just such a good author, and I loved Bad Monkey.
I mean, we're empty nesters now, and I never thought we'd be the TV people, but we are the TV
Oh,
people.
it's a highlight of my day. I come home from work, I
wait.
pour a glass of wine, and we're like, what do we want for dinner?
Yeah.
And what are we watching tonight? And if we light up, Brandon's like, there's new episodes of fill in the blank. Oh, there's more of this, there's more of that. And then when I leave and I'm traveling without him, like right now, I'm like, you can't watch this
cheating.
when I'm
It's
gone.
cheating.
It is. There was a whole article about that, how it's a new form of infidelity.
Oh, I learned that very early on in my relationship.
You did?
Yes.
Why, did you cheat, or did you get cheated on?
No, I cheated.
I cheated too.
Yes.
I didn't know that he could see that it had been seen.
Oh my gosh. We were newly
Tragic.
Garrett and I were newly dating. We had just started watching This Is Us.
Yeah,
It was like brand new. It was the hot new TV
Yeah.
show. We watched like 3 episodes together. I didn't realize how much of a TV person he was. And he left and I missed him and was like, oh, this show reminds me of him. So I ended up finishing the rest of the first
my
season.
goodness.
And he came back and that is the biggest fight I think we've ever had.
Seriously.
In the 8 years we've been together.
No way.
Yes,
Oh
I
my
think
God,
that was the
that's
biggest fight we've
amazing.
ever had, and we have never watched another episode of that show since
It's
because
like
it
the-
ruined
it's like
it for the both
It's
of
like
us.
a thing that you just don't even
Yeah,
talk about.
no, we don't even really bring
Every-
it up because it's such a sore
Do you
subject.
think
7
every
years
couple
later.
has a subject that someone, and I'm like, don't talk about that.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
don't bring that up around my
Oh,
husband.
yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. What's your favorite item of clothing?
I have a really good vintage Levi's collection.
Love.
Oh my God, I need to stop.
No, never stop.
I love Levi's.
I love Levi's too. Yeah.
And
I think that
yeah, I'm not a big. It's so funny. And I was being in the fashion industry. I was so into it. Now I'm like, I have to call Dana. You know Dana?
Yes, I love her.
call
I think
Dana,
I
like,
know her because of you, probably.
Probably, but I tell her, I'm like, just give me 6 things I need for fall. Send me the links.
Yep.
She does. I do it.
Oh, no
I
fair.
said, right
Can
now,
I pay her to
red.
do
She
that
has,
for
like,
me?
some red ballet shoes she wants me to get.
That's amazing.
And,
You're so lucky to have a friend that you can
I
do
do.
that with.
Yeah, I do because but I used to be so like, what am I gonna wear? It's like today. I told you I'm homeless. Like that shirt's clean and these.
No, I'm obsessed with your shirt. I want the
I do
shirt.
love
Is that
it.
from
So
Good
cool.
Together House?
Yeah, and it's Jay Ruby does
Of
the little
course.
applique.
Oh, I might copy. If I show up with the same shirt
No,
someday,
you
I'm just
should.
going to act like
And
I didn't
so
copy
I got
you.
very inspired by her because no one does anything with drapes. I'm gonna do stuff like this
Oh,
on
no,
my new
it's
drapes.
so
right?
good.
Like
I love
applique.
it.
Yeah, applique.
Okay,
Exactly.
Garrett sent me an image today of someone in France who had created a big drapery panel that looked like a men's button-up shirt.
No, see, I love
with
that
these
stuff.
giant pockets, but it's a full
drape.
And he sent it to me and was like, this is my new sewing project.
Oh
and
my
I'm like,
gosh,
please
that's
make this for our
amazing.
bedroom.
Yeah, see, that's
absolutely.
unusual. That's
It's
amazing.
unusual.
That's the
It's
flair
the-
factor. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
the rent.
Yeah.
And I told her, I said, it's not a collab, but I want you to come. We got to come up with some kind of thing because drapes. I mean, how many times have you done it? Beautiful fabric, beautiful hand. Nothing's like, what is that? You know,
I
like,
know.
that's-
Oh, no, you need to do that, whether
I'm
it's a
going
collab
to.
or not, and
Yeah.
then we'll buy it from you.
Yes. We
No, just for
absolutely
my
will.
own, my own house. Because
Oh, that's how it all starts, Riley. We already covered this.
I know,
That
idea
everybody's going to
house.
want it.
Yeah,
That's the
absolutely.
idea house.
Well,
we
sometimes.
already want it. And
Right.
It's not even in your house yet.
Okay, we're supposed to wrap it up.
Okay.
But I don't
Yes.
want to. I could talk to you forever,
know.
but I know you have places to be. Thank you so
Oh God, it was great
much.
to
This
talk.
was
No,
so fun.
this was like.
And
not
you
even-
know you're going to have to come back.
Well,
I'm going to be like, Riley is back because now we're talking about
now we're
this.
talking about.
Now we're
Now we're
talking
talking
about the
about her
business side
new
of
drapery
design.
line
Yes.
for fill in the blank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about employees.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can't say that because you guys seem like you have a great. I
know.
I love.
I
my
have good
girls.
stories of past employees.
Yeah.
One in particular.
Yeah, well, I have one in particular as well.
Yeah, one in particular. Anyway, okay. Thank you. Love
Thanks.
you. Okay.
Hey, thanks for listening to today's episode of The Cult of Flair. I'm Stephanie Hunt. If you like what you heard, please share it with a friend. Follow the podcast on whatever platforms you are listening. Follow me on Instagram at The Flairhunter or at The Cult of Flair. And until next time, go find your flair.